Hey everyone, welcome to Energy Matters Live this Friday afternoon. I'm Tim Echols. My co-host is always Casey Boyce. Casey, how's it going?
Hey, Tim.
Hey, we're going to be talking about smart thermostats today. And, as we, in Atlanta at least, we've got a rainy weekend. We've got, in Casey, it's not unusual during, during December or during maybe March that we would turn the heat on in the morning, and then in the afternoon, people are going, "Hey, should I turn my AC on?" But
One of the joys of living in the South, right?
a smart thermostat kind of solves all the problems, right? I mean, you've got Ecobee. How does that work?
Yeah. So on the Ecobee, at least, you can set it up so that it automatically triggers based on the temperature. So if it gets too hot, it kicks on the AC. If it gets too cold, it kicks on the heat, and it just keeps things nice and comfortable.
Yeah, so we've got a little testimony. I want you to hear a little testimony from our original co-host of the show, John Knoll. Some of you know John. We're just going to play that and let you kind of hear his testimony.
Hey, my name is John Knoll. Tim and I started Energy Matters back in the day, and we never really got a chance to talk about smart thermostats much, and it is something that I am absolutely consumed by. The great thing about a digital and smart thermostat is you can control it from your iPhone, from your smartphone. You can look at what the temperature is in your house. It tells you what the temperature is outside. It's constantly updating.
Hey, Casey, I was with John last night. We had made a bet about the election. I lost, and I was buying him his dinner. But I watched him, pull out his phone. He's got 3 different properties with 3 different smart thermostats, and he had someone come into his office and he was turning the heat on, on his phone. So, so
that's very John, isn't it?
Yeah. So he really does that. Let's let him finish here.
Whether you're not there, you forget to turn it down when you leave the house, it's automatically going into eco mode in the case of the Nest thermostat, which is the one that I have. And if you have multiple buildings or properties or even sections of your house, in my case, I got a rental property, I got an office, and I got my house. Well, that's 3 thermostats, 3 different electric bills, and I need to be able to see what's going on at any one time.
This reminds me of what Atlanta United, I mean, you're a big soccer fan, your kids play soccer. I went out to their headquarters out there in Cobb County, met with their building supervisor, put him on the radio. Actually, we had him on the show. As a matter of fact, we may just in an upcoming show use that on the road segment as one of our segments and replay that for people, since we're talking about smart thermostats. But he had all of these micro HVAC units all over the building, and he was, if they weren't going to be in the conference room that day, he didn't turn it on. And so, of course, he's got the big room where the athletes are exercising, doing spin classes. I mean, those soccer players are doing a lot of cardio stuff. And so they had to make sure that they had that temperature right. And they had the corporate offices, they had the waiting room, they had the snack room. And he's controlling all of these things, with smart thermostats, but with a central controller that controlled the smart thermostats. Have you ever seen a building like that?
That's incredible. No, I haven't. I mean, I've heard of buildings that are set up that way, certainly, but I've not actually seen that controller and all of those little micro units that you're talking about. That's really cool.
Well, we're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube right now. If you've, Keith, hello. Thanks for being a part of our show today. If you have ever had a smart thermostat or you're interested in one, hey, give us a little comment here and let us and let us see. We'd love to hear about your experience, because we're just diving into smart thermostats, which, Casey, you can get these by just going to georgiapower.com and get a rebate on top of it, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've got coming up in an upcoming show, we'll be talking a little bit about some of the things you can get on Georgia Power's marketplace. And what's really nice about that is that the marketplace is baked into what you pay. So, you could still go out to Home Depot and buy a, Nest thermostat or an Ecobee or something like that and submit for a rebate. But if you go to the Georgia Power marketplace, you get that rebate point of purchase. It's immediate. So you're paying a lot less up front for it. And that's what I did when I got my Ecobees.
Yeah, so let's let John finish his.
And this allows me from my app to instantly see what's happening. It's a great advantage. It puts smart with all caps to thermostat, and we all remember the Honeywell little dial thermostats, the old school thermostats. This is a round, easy to use. When you get close to it, it will start to glow. The temperature pops up. Proximity detector basically sees that you're around. And when there's no activity, and it doesn't detect any activity in a house, when it's vacant, for example, or office, it sets back. And there's a schedule. You can do the schedules, program the schedules. You're out of town. Great example, winter, landing in Hartsfield Airport. The house is at 60 degrees. I got to warm that sucker up before I get home. On the tarmac at Hartsfield,
okay, you see just how enthusiastic he is about this, but we've got a chance to hear from the founder of a thermostat. Set it up, and we'll bring him into, and we're going to bring the video into our stream.
Yeah. So just before I do this, if you remember back, we had programmable thermostats for a long time, but they were, little kind of beige industrial looking boxes that we had. And so really the company that kicked off the smart thermostat craze is, of course, Nest, which has been acquired by Google. And so this is a clip that we're going to share here of the Nest founder, Tony Fadell, kind of talking about his journey around, why he invented this thing and kind of where it came from. So take a listen. We'll come back and talk about it.
And I'm CEO of Nest. I used to work at Apple for 9 years. Basically, I managed the iPod division, created the iPod, 18 generations, and then 3 generations of the iPhone. It took some time to decompress. After running a marathon for 9 years, we want to just take some time. We went around the world. We traveled all around and just kind of got our head out of Silicon Valley and started really concentrating on our kids and learning about energy and learning about how we might be able to leave the world in a better place for our kids and our grandkids. We were building a green home in Lake Tahoe. My architect actually gave us a spec for the heating and cooling system. It was about $15,000. And then this $15,000 system was controlled by $350 thermostats. It's like $350 thermostats. What do these do? Cell phones are less than $350. These things got to be amazing. So give me the spec. And they give me this spec. And I was like, wait a second. This thing they're ugly. They look like computers from the 90s. They're all beige boxes. They have technology literally from the 80s inside of them or 90s. I'm like, why am I paying for such junk? I said, I think I can design a better one. We decided to take all of the things that we've known in terms of building cell phones and portable devices and apply that expertise to a space of energy savings that we think is really important, that could help to reduce your energy bills and save the world. Traditional thermostats today, all they are basically light switches. They just turn on and off these 2 wires. But there are lots of nuances about how you turn things on and off. There's no standard interface. Like we have USB or Firewire or different types of interfaces for a computer. These interfaces are all different for many, many systems. And these systems can be 50 years old. So we had to come up with all the technology to identify the types of heating and cooling units you have. It's simply a dial, because 99.9% of the time, all you're doing is turning up and down your heating and cooling. If you click anywhere on the face, here or here, that's a button. That's all it has, is a ring and a button. You can then scroll through various menu items. We have 5 different sensors. We have temperature, of course, and humidity, but we also have light sensors, and we also have activity sensors, near and far field activity sensors, which gives us a lot of sensor data to do all kinds of very interesting things today with the first product and also in the future. We can detect when you're out of your house for a period of time and then turn it down to a lower energy setting. When you come home, we turn right back on as if you were at home the entire time. So we've saved that amount of energy just by, you just walking out of the house. After the first 5 to 7 days, it learns everything it needs to know about your schedule. You can actually use our iOS apps for iPad, iPhone, Android as well as a web browser to get into all of the different settings. It can help save the environment and save a lot of money. And by the way, it requires guys with my type of skill to do. It's really cool. And we're not going to be competing with Apple. You know, we could make another cell phone or whatever, but competing with Apple would be hell on earth. Let's do something that is not like Apple. Let's go after big, dumb, slow companies.
Welcome back to Energy Matters. I'm Tim Echols, my host, Casey Boyce, and we are talking about smart thermostats today. You've just heard Tony Fadell talking about the invention of one of the smart thermostat brands. Before that, we heard from John Noel, original co-host for our show, about his experience. Casey, my daughter had one of these Nest thermostats. She loved it. It was in an apartment where the apartment complex had gone through and done a lot of cool sustainability features as they renovated apartments, a lot of energy efficient upgrades. I mean, would you put smart thermostats in the category of energy efficiency?
I don't know that they're efficiency necessarily. I'm wrestling on this, right? So just for our listeners, efficiency is kind of getting the same services with less, right? So same comfort with less energy usage, versus conservation, which is just not using as much. So that conservation is like turning off the lights, right, when you leave a room. And so, way a lot of these smart thermostats work is that they are, as Tony talked about and as John talked about in his comments, they rely on occupancy sensors to say, okay, people are here or not, and turn the air conditioning or heat on or off. And that definitely saves energy. I think that the thing that's really cool about them from a comfort standpoint is that because they learn the house and how people like to be comfortable, and because they're connected to the internet and can understand what the weather is going to look like, it can understand, unlike the dumb old thermostats, what when it needs to turn on to start heating or cooling the house to make sure that everyone stays comfortable throughout the day.
Yeah, I love the idea of the remote control piece of it, because as people forget, they can then go in, they forget to change it, they get to work or whatever, and they can go back and change it. How often do you find yourself doing that, Casey, with your Ecobees?
Yeah, so I am not John Knoll. I've probably done the remote control 2 or 3 times since we've had them in 3 or 4 years. That's not to say that I don't take advantage of some of the programmable features. So, for instance, when we go on vacation, I'll set a schedule and have it come back on before we're ready to come back. But I really don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about my home thermostats when I'm away from home. But certainly people do, like John, and certainly people love having that capability.
So financially speaking, do you feel like that a smart thermostat pays for itself?
Yeah, I think it depends on your house. And I've seen some research, and this is, worth noting for our listeners, that if you've got a really leaky old house, and certainly there are a lot of old houses in our listening area, right? That smart thermostats are great, and they pay for themselves really quickly because you're not running, your HVAC all the time and having to deal with all that heated or cooled air leaking out from doors and windows and through walls and things like that. The payback is a little bit less kind of immediate if you've got a newer, tighter home, and that's just simply because those houses maintain their temperature quite a bit better than older houses do. That's not to say that you can't save money that way. I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, and we talked, in earlier segments. For my thermostats, we have it optimized around our time of use program. And having the smart thermostats makes it a lot easier to do that than if we just had kind of a dumb, even programmable thermostat that doesn't incorporate those time of use windows and costs.
Yeah, so I think once a person gets used to this, that it becomes something you start to rely on, and the technology. And I think we find ourselves doing this with all kinds of technology, right? How addicted we are to, say, phone dictation or a dish hopper and recording, DVRing shows, and we start getting used to this technology. and it kind of becomes a part of our lifestyle. And it really doesn't take that long to establish the habit, right? And so now you and your family, I guess, did your wife and kids, do they think about energy at all like you do?
No, we're probably a better family for it. But that's the whole point of these things, right? Is that you don't have to think about energy. They've got the smarts to the thermostats, that is. I think my family too. But they've got the smarts to really be able to manage it on your behalf so that you can save energy, you can save money. But you don't have to be running up to the thermostat, every hour to turn it up or turn it down to kind of manage it on your own. And I will say, for folks who are interested in these thermostats and, haven't tried it yet, as we talked about, getting one through the Georgia Power Marketplace is a really inexpensive way to do that. There are some things to kind of learn in terms of how they work. So, John talked about the remote access capabilities. There's this newer thing called geofencing, which basically, takes into account, is your home near, or is your phone rather near the thermostats, or, in Oklahoma or wherever you might be, right? And it can use that instead of the proximity sensors. And I actually talked to someone a number of years back who had just gotten a thermostat, and he was away at a conference, and his wife called him up and said, "Why is it so darn cold in the house?" And it turns out his thermostat thought that no one was home. So, these are the kinds of things that you've got to play with, right? And kind of understand how they're working, but they definitely can increase your convenience. They can increase your comfort, and definitely can save money.
Hey, as we wrap up this segment of our show, Casey, how can folks find out about you, and where do you recommend they go to research smart thermostats?
Yeah, so if you want to connect with me, please do so on Twitter. I'm at Casey Boyce. The show's at Matters Radio. Tim, you're at?
I'm at Tim Echols.
Yeah. And then, if you're interested in smart thermostats, the Georgia Power Marketplace has great information about it. So again, you can buy through there, but they've got a background on the different kinds of thermostats. So it's a good learning resource. And you can Google these thermostats as well.
Well, thanks, everyone. You've been listening to Energy Matters. And we do hope that you will join us for our weekly broadcast. Our show is on WGAUradio.com every Saturday morning. We have a fresh show, this a much more expansive version of what you see here. And then we're in Savannah on Saturday night. We're in Clarksville Saturday and Sunday. And we're in Brunswick early on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And the show just continues to grow. And so if you have suggestions, we'd love to have you hear that. We'd love to hear from you on that. So, Casey, anything else today?
No, it's been great talking about smart thermostats and kind of the different programs that you can access with them. We talked about time of use, and on the upcoming radio show, as Tim, you mentioned, we're going to be talking about Georgia Power's Temp Check program, another really interesting offering that you can really easily take advantage of using these smart thermostats.
Yeah, it's a cool program allowing them to cycle your HVAC system on and off at 10 times, up to 10 times in the winter. And up to 10 times in the summer, and you get a rebate check for that to participate. So, hey, everyone, have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.